In this episode, we talk about the mental health of players, the Kyle Beach situation with the Blackhawks organization, from the statements released by Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, as well what needs to change in the game. Also delve deep into the Toronto Maple Leafs on this week's Team ISO, Mitch Marner's focus, and Morgan Rielly's new long-term 8-year contract. Hit the music. Welcome to Slam Sports Hockey. I'm your host, Peter Bojeranov, and the mic is always on. It's your one-stop weekly shop for expert analysis on every single team. We are a fun hockey community, bringing everyone together. You can find me on Twitter now at pbojeranov, Bojarinov. V as in Victor, formerly at Russia98. You can find the full show at Jablam Sports. That's Jablam Sports. If you have any questions or comments, please tweet us. Use the hashtag at Jablam Sports. Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so yet, and click on those 3 dots in your podcasting app. Share our show with 3 hockey fans you know. Thank you, everyone. Remember, check out our website, www.jablamsports.com, for our podcasts and even game notes for each episode. You'll get all the links to everything we mentioned on this show, including guests. We've even got articles this year and much more content weekly. For our podcasts, click on podcasts on our website and then hockey on this show specifically, right on our website. Time for an important segment of Trending Now today. Joining to discuss what everyone's talking about are Zawaski, managing editor of podcasts and social media at WBBM News Radio, and a Blackhawks insider at Odyssey. You can find Jay on Twitter at Zawaski. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Thanks. Appreciate having me, Peter. Also
on the show is Joe Brand. He's the studio host covering the Blackhawks on WGN Radio. You can get him on the tweets at Joe_Brand1. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Peter. Pleased to be here with Jay Zawaski and yourself.
So we all know what's going on with the Blackhawks and, of course, Kyle Beach. Pretty important stuff. Let's delve right into it. What is, Joe, if you can, what is the current update between Kyle Beach's lawyers and the Chicago Blackhawks?
Well, as far as today, I believe yesterday was when Danny Wirtz, the CEO of the Blackhawks, and team president Jamie Faulkner had met with Kyle Beach's attorney, Susan Loggins, and they released a joint statement. I believe this was Rick Westhead's tweet on TSN declaring that positive conversations have gone on and they hope to have more in the future. And as far as I know, that seems to be the main stance of the Blackhawks right now, is trying to resolve things as best they can in terms of righting the wrong that had happened to Kyle Beach back in 2010. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a long way to go for that. Obviously, you can't go back in time and change what happened, but right now, as far as the Blackhawks are concerned, nobody that was involved in the 2010 meeting is with the team anymore. Mm-hmm. So all they can do is try to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. And so far, it seems like they've taken the right steps to do so. But clearly, a lot of details of this situation and other ones seem to constantly be coming out day after day. So it's just kind of an ongoing situation, and everyone is just trying to do their best in terms of making sure this doesn't happen again, but also holding the people that made it happen responsible.
You mentioned there that nobody's a part of the organization. 2 players are, and of course, that's Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, and important team players. Of course, they were younger at the time, but they're much older now. Their statements, or at least lack thereof, by Patrick Kane, and of course, not too responsed from Jonathan Toews, of him kind of, saying a little bit to Kyle Beach, but also backing up Stan Bowman. Jay, what should have they had done? Did they miss the boat here? Can they do better?
Well, over the last couple of days after the last game, after his hat trick, Patrick Kane met the media and sort of corrected his poor tone from last week. And then today, Jonathan Toews did the same thing. I don't know if PR got to them. I don't know if they sort of reflected on what they said. But both of them have, since their poor comments, come back and sort of recorrected those things. And I think, it's never too late to learn from your mistakes. But I think, two guys who have been talking to the media for as long as they have, and look, say what you want about John McDonough, but he taught people how to talk to the media, right? That was one of the things that he focused on, was we will not come off poorly in the media ever. And those guys should have known better. And I think what frustrates me the most is that that's where they went naturally, especially Jonathan Toews, who his body language throughout the entire press conference was very standoffish and kind of angry and defiant, and seemed kind of irritated by the questioning that was happening. And as a captain of the team, he had to know those things were going to come. He was captain of the team when these things were happening to Kyle Beach. So for him to act, 10 years after the fact, 11 years after the fact, and, a couple days after the report comes out, for him to act as put off by the whole thing as he came off was very upsetting to me. And regardless of what he said today, it just kind of rings hollow. It rings like someone must have gotten to him and told him what to say. It's just frustrating. And it kind of just illustrates that Kyle Beach didn't matter much to people. Yeah. They must not have deemed him important enough. And look, it had this horrible thing happen to Nicholas Hjalmarsson or David Boland or whoever, you can bet your ass it would have been nipped in the bud right away. But because Kyle Beach was periphery and not really going to have an impact on the playoffs, they decided to put it off and brush it under the rug. And, say what you want about their age at the time. Look, when I was 22, 23, I was an idiot too. But with 11 years to reflect on it and a report to read and an interview with Kyle Beach to watch, I hope that I would have reacted better than both of them did.
Yeah, we all hope that many of us would have reacted better, and at the times, we don't understand how much of an impact this does. I feel that the years of certain issues that people have been through, but it's now with Akim Aliu, that situation, and of course with Winnipeg's general manager, Kevin Cheveldayoff, kind of issuing a better statement in his remarks. I want to go back to now how people are kind of looking at these players, and especially Patrick Kane. He got a big hat trick in his first game back, and I don't think anybody really cared or wants to care for some of the members of the team and Patrick Kane. We tweeted out, at least my team did, at Blame Sports, how do you feel about Patrick Kane's hat trick? And almost zero cared. 65%, I believe, or more, don't care at all. And many don't know what to feel. Is that how it is right now with Blackhawks Nation, Joe?
I think not knowing how to feel is a pretty fair term. There's a lot of Blackhawks fans that are kind of uncertain how to support the team right now, if they want to continue supporting the team. Clearly, attendance has taken a bit of a hit with the sellout streak coming to an end. And past couple of days, we've been seeing more and more open seats. But yeah, I think Blackhawks fans are kind of at a crossroads right now. And I understand where they're coming from because, like I say, even if you do want to support the team, how do you still do it without condoning what had happened 11 years ago? And if there's no Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews on this team, I think it's a little bit easier to just go and support the team. But as you mentioned with their comments the past couple of days, today and then right after Kyle Beach's original statement and interview with Rick Westhead, it puts fans in a tough spot. And I think that's what the organization is trying to figure out now too, how to respect fandom's difficult spot right now. They just recently postponed Marian Hossa's legacy night because basically it seems like anything that involves reflecting on 2010 now needs to be a time to reflect on what went wrong in 2010 rather than celebrating the accomplishments of that team. Because if they were to do that, it'd just be kind of tone deaf to everything that happened. So it's a very tough time for Hawks fans, and I understand it. I don't even think the organization is. I think the organization understands that it's a tough time for them right now. So it's a tough time for the organization too to figure out the right way. And clearly, you have to do what you can, make the steps forward to make sure this doesn't happen again. You also have to respect Kyle Beach as the person, what had happened to him, what about the 2010 team and their success. And I don't want to say worship, but just this total obsession that the city had for the team is what pushed aside what should have been done for him. So to just go on and celebrate the 2010 championship again, you're kind of reliving that. So I think that's why the Hawks went that way of postponing some of those celebrations.
Yeah, it's very important to do so. Jay, my quick question is, why wasn't anyone actually fired? They were all let go. And also, why? I know they kind of went off with this, but I feel that, and a lot of people did, Kevin Cheveldayoff got let go easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what the legal reasons would be for, letting someone resign versus firing them. I know a lot of people have been hung up on that. I think what matters is the ultimate outcome. Mm-hmm. I think the Blackhawks looked at Stan Bowman and said, look, here's your choices. You can resign or we can fire you. And we're going to give you the option to resign because you've been here this long. As far as we know, aside from this moment where you had a giant lapse that's inexcusable, you've been a good person to our people and to our team and whatever. So we're going to give you this. It doesn't matter to me as long as they're gone. That's how I look at it. However they want to sign the paper, as long as they're gone, it's fine. Now, Brad Aldrich is a different situation. That's a guy who should have been summarily fired, and obviously for many, many reasons. But McIsaac's gone, Bowman's gone. That's what matters. And I think kind of going back to your last question to Joe, that has made it a little bit easier for fans to deal with. Obviously, you can't fire Patrick Kane. You can't fire Jonathan Toews. Those guys are on-ice leaders, not necessarily off-ice leaders. So I think some fans can look past it, but there are a lot that can't. And there are a lot of fans that may have turned the other cheek on the last Patrick Kane incident. Before 2015 with the rape allegation that went away because of a lack of evidence and all the sort of strange things that were happening around that. And now I think a lot of people are revisiting that in light of the Aldrich situation of like, oh, wow, they covered that up. What else would they be able to cover up? Right. And it's kind of coming to a head for a lot of Hawks fans in the Akeem Eliu thing, which was 2010 when he was with the Rockford Ice Hawks. So it was the same season as the Kyle Beach things were happening. Chris Block wrote about the Garrett Ross situation. There's just been a lot of things that have happened in this organization over the last 10 years that are really problematic. And look, I think if you were to dig, you could probably find something in every organization, but it's not an excuse. The Hawks need to be better for the way they talk about how they are as an organization, for the way they talk about their leadership on and off the ice. They're doing a poor job of showing it. The response since the report has come out has been correct, but when the allegations came out, they denied them and said there's no merit to these. So it's easier to do the right thing when you're caught red-handed. It's different to do the right thing when it's a little bit tougher. And hopefully from here on out, they'll start doing the right thing from Jump Street.
I want to thank Westhead for such an important integral piece he's been to helping Kyle Beach and his situation. Lastly, Joe, if you can touch on this one. Coach Q, Joel Quenneville, was let go of the Florida Panthers. Basically, what will he ever get a job back in the NHL? Do you feel?
I feel like it's hard to say he will. After resigning, or I should say before resigning, he had the conversation with Gary Bettman. It was Joel Quenneville's decision to resign. Gary Bettman agreed with it. If he ever does want another job in hockey, he'll have to revisit another conversation with Gary Bettman. Same goes with Stan Bowman. But I think it's really tough for anybody to see these guys coming back into hockey at this situation, because they are the ones in charge in that situation. And when something like this just kind of allows to happen, and the inaction that goes on is going to be remembered, especially, like Jay said, when you get caught red-handed, it just seemed like there were way too many opportunities to put this away when the time had happened. And people question people's morals in those situations. And if that is what gets exposed, it's going to be really hard to see Joel Quenneville get another job in hockey. Clearly Hawks fans loved him while he was here. I'm sure there's plenty of Hawks fans that still love him, but there's a lot more that are having a real tough time with all this, and being able to appreciate a guy with all of these investigation findings that have come out, that no one was able to step in and do the right thing, Joel Quenneville included. So I think it'd be very hard to see Joel Quenneville coach anywhere else.
We could talk about this for hours at time. I do hope more people put eyes on the situation. We learn from this. Many organizations, there's changes in hockey happen. We're sorry for you, Kyle Beach. Again, you can find them on Twitter at Joe_Brand1 for Joe, and for Jay at Jay Zawaski. Next up on the show, Maple Leafs Team ISO this week. We're going to be chatting with Nick Barden and Alex Hobson, talking the needs of the Buds. Again, thank you, gentlemen, for this.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Have you ever wanted a one-stop weekly shop for expert analysis on every single NHL team? Look no further than jablamsports.com. We've had guests from James Zawaski, Ardo Cal, and yes, even Dennis Bernstein shows up monthly. We are a fun hockey community bringing everyone together. Find us wherever you get your podcast and type in JABLAM Sports. That's Jablam Sports. Our website is, yes, you've called it, jablamsports.com. Go download and subscribe right now. You can also find us on socials at Jablam Sports on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm Peter Rojanov saying, puck you later. Let's get to Team ISO this week. This week we are Team ISOing the Toronto Maple Leafs. On the panel are Nick Barden, Marlies Beat Reporter for the Leafs Nation. You can find him on Twitter at Nick Barden. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you for having me. I was going to say in the first record, you said Maple Leafs reporter, and I was like, oh no. But I'm glad we got Marlies here.
Perfect. And we will talk about some prospects near the end of this segment. So I'm glad Nick can join us. And Alex Hobson, you guys are pals. You guys are new to the show. Producer at 610 CKTB and co-host of Sticks in the Six podcast. You can get him on Twitter at HobsonA16. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you very much for having me, Peter. Looking forward to this.
So there's lots to talk about. The core turning around, the big three we're going to talk about then. So let's first get to Morgan Rielly, his contract, 8 years, $7.5 million. A, is he taking a pay cut? And B, is he worth the full 8 years, Alex?
Yeah, I would say that he's taking a bit of a pay cut in a sense, just because we saw what defensemen get on the market, or what they have been getting on the market, especially this past offseason. We saw with Seth Jones, Cale Makar, Charlie McAvoy, all these guys, most recently Adam Fox. So it's obvious what top defensemen mean to certain teams. And I think it's worth it in the sense that it's a very front-loaded contract. So towards the end, the back nine of the contract, if Morgan Rielly does happen to slow down and maybe doesn't quite have the legs that he used to, he won't be making 7.5 on the year. It'll be a little closer to 6 million. So I do think that he was deserving of the full 8 years in that sense. And I think it's a smart investment because guys like him can usually play for a full 8 years. Like it'd be a little bit of a different story if Rielly played more of like say like a Radko Gudas type, and a guy uses his body a lot and doesn't really rely on skating quite like Morgan Rielly does. So I think, these puck moving defensemen, best case scenario, Morgan Rielly ages like a Mark Giordano type. And in that sense, I think that the contract will be worth it in the end.
Nick, you can jump in at any time.
I was just gonna say, like, in terms of the money, I'm perfectly fine with it. I mean, like Alex said, there are a lot of guys making 9 million plus, and to get him at 7.5 is immaculate. Like there's no better deal in my opinion. And again, like Alex said, if he went to test the open market, he would definitely get 9 million plus. In terms of the term, I'm again totally fine with it. He's been a Leaf. He's been through everything with this team. He's earned it. He's earned every cent of the contract. He's earned every amount of time that he's able to be with the Leafs. So I enjoy everything about it. It's a great contract. It's a great term, even though it is on the longer side. Like I said earlier, he's earned it. He's earned everything.
Have the Leafs missed the boat a little bit here? I know the way Tavares is, he's a silent leader. Matthews is that guy that everybody's like, maybe he should have got the captaincy. But is Rielly the one that maybe should have gotten the captaincy? You've seen him in the past deal with important community issues, dealt with certain situations very well. Maybe, Alex?
I think there's certainly an argument to be made that he should have gotten the captaincy. You can definitely make a case for him, but at the same time, I really don't think that the letters are much of a big deal in Toronto. I think that there's a lot of leaders in that dressing room, and I think a lot of these guys look up to each other and don't really let themselves be defined by whether or not they have a letter on their jersey. And I mean, you look at, for example, Jason Spezza and Wayne Simmons. Those are two guys who are looked at as some of the more vocal leaders on the team, but neither of them are wearing a letter. And I even remember reading the quotes from the press conference after Rielly signed this contract, and you've got John Tavares, who's the captain of the team and a couple years older than Morgan Rielly, saying that he looks up to Rielly himself. So as much as, yes, that does kind of feed the case that he could feed the argument that he could have potentially been argued as a candidate for the captaincy, I don't think it's something that the players really care about that much. I think everybody in there kind of has their own way of being a leader, and they all kind of look up to each other.
Yeah, and like, in my opinion, a lot of it was pressure from the fans. I think, there comes a point where you go a amount of years without a captain, and people are like, "Where's the captaincy? Who's going to be the captain?" And it's especially magnified in Toronto. And I mean, like Alex said, there's so many good leaders. I would have been fine with any of them being captain. I mean, whether it was Morgan Rielly, John Tavares, at that point when Austin Matthews did what he did, he was never going to get the captaincy after that. So, I mean, I would have probably, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I totally would say that I would have been fine with Mitch Marner being captain. Like, he's another leader, and they have so many. It's actually crazy. Like, Alex, I didn't even think, I've totally forgot about Wayne Simmons and Jason Spezza, and they don't even have A's. Like, you have Jake Muzzin, you have even Alexander Kerfoot is some sort of leader. Like, there's so many, and I would have been fine with any of them. John Tavares, it's probably the safest captain because he really says what everyone likes at every single moment. So I understand that, but at the same time, I would have been open to see anyone be captain. Maybe not anyone, but the few that I listed.
Let's go with Captain Boring. All right. What specifically does Mitch Marner have to do to deserve that $11 million a year, Nick?
I think he just got to play in the way he plays and just be himself. Like that's everything. And as long as he can keep that confidence going, like we saw in the last game when he scored that goal that made me freaking yell at my TV. If he plays like that every single night, and I get, like, personally for me, I totally understand there's not going to be nights where he's going to play exceptional. He's a human being. That's going to happen. But if he just plays and he gets 2 points, 3 points in a game, you might get a few 1-point games. If he just plays himself, I think it'll speak for himself. One of the big things, though, is that playoff performance. And if he can do that this year and the Leafs can get past that first round, I think that's all nullified at that point. I don't think there will be any discussions about whether Mitch Marner will be worth the contract, just because it'll be happiness at that point. You're entering the promised land of the second round. So I wouldn't say, I just think he should just be himself and it'll sort itself out.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Mitch Marner is a great player. If Alex, does Mitch Marner's style find that match for the playoffs, or does he need to change his game for the playoffs?
I don't think he has to change his game. I think Nick hit the nail on the head there, saying that, he's just got to be himself. He's got to play the game that he can be most confident in himself playing. And we saw that last night. I mean, Mitch Marner said, he said to the media earlier in the day, he said, I think I just need to go out there and be myself and play hockey and play the way that I've played my entire career. And look what happens. He comes out and he puts out 3 points. And, you look back to that series against Montreal and you look back to the series against Columbus in the bubble the year before, and watching Marner in both those series, it was obvious that he was in his own head and he was trying too hard to play and be the superstar and trying too hard to be the hero, holding onto the puck for a little too long, making rash decisions, just little things like that. And like Nick said, we're all human. That happens. But I think he can be that guy that the Leafs need him to be in the playoffs. He just has to stay out of his own head. And that's really what it comes down to in the end. Just forgetting your demons, forgetting what people are saying about you, tuning out the media, tuning out the fans, and just going out there and playing hockey and doing it the way that you can do it. And I think if he does that, I don't see any reason why he can't produce in the playoffs.
I still question the fact that if you get a very good shutdown forward line, a very specific classic, aka Shane Corson in the Maple Leafs organization, or maybe if Philippe Deneau plays the way he plays, that nothing, things don't happen. If Vegas has Mark Stone in the lineup, how are the Leafs, that line, going to contribute points in the playoffs? Can a Marner play his style when you have such defensive concentrating like glue to you, able to keep that aka Marner offensive style?
You go, Nick.
I was just going to say, I mean, one of the things that stands out after you say that is the fact, I remember last season, or it might have been in the All or Nothing documentary. I don't think it was. I think it was Joe Thornton saying last season he's never seen anybody like Mitch Marner who can produce and who can do things with the puck that he's never seen before and make passes. Again, if he's a special player, he's one of the best playmakers on planet Earth in the game of hockey. And I don't think, even if it's Mark Stone or anybody else, I think if he's playing his game, he's not stoppable. There might be times where he might come up short, but most of the time, if he's in his own bubble and he's doing great and he's just continuing to produce and feeling confident, I don't think there's a lot of players in this league who can stop him.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Nick. I think when you look at the way Marner played in the playoffs last year, absolutely, you get a good shutdown line in there and they will be able to stop Marner, because when he's in his own head and he's not on his game, he does have a style of game where it's easy to shut him down. But like you were saying there, Nick, like all he has to do is just buy into the mindset and make sure he's out of his own head and know that he can just go ahead and play his game. And I think at that point, it'll be hard for opposing players and for defensemen to stop him. It's just, we need to see him execute that kind of style of play when it matters the most. And I think that's really what it comes down to.
We all know Mitchie is a highlight reel machine, and when he's on his game, it's fantastic to watch. What is the timetable for Ilya Mikheyev's injury comeback, and who could be out of the top 6 and possibly out of the lineup if everyone's healthy when he returns, Alex?
Well, that's a tough question. I think I'm not sure exactly what Mikheyev's timetable is. I think he's still going to be out for another couple of weeks. And, it's easy to say this right now because they've played well the past couple of games, but I wouldn't really want to touch the top 6 as it is. I think Alex Kerfoot looks surprisingly good next to John Tavares and Mitch Marner. I guess it's not even really fair to say surprisingly because he looked good in the top 6 last year. And obviously I don't want anyone to be touching that Bunting, Matthews, Nylander top line. I think that's brought a lot of joy to fans. So the easy answer would be to remove somebody like Nick Ritchie or Wayne Simmons from the lineup because they've been the least productive. But at the same time, Simmons has a little bit of a character aspect that I think just him being on the bench and him being in the dressing room and him being on the ice when his players are out there, even if he's not contributing on the score sheet, he's not a guy who I think the Leafs would really benefit from having out of the lineup. And in terms of Ritchie, just the fact that he's making $2.5 million, I think the Leafs I don't think they have much of a choice but to have that patience in him and kind of exercise that patience and hope that he can figure it out, because benching him 2 months into a 2-year contract at 2.5 per, I think that'd be a little bit of a tough look on Leafs coaching. So it's a great question, and I'm sorry I couldn't give you a better answer, but I don't envy Sheldon Keefe. That's what I'm going to say.
Nick, is there anything you like so far out of Nick Ritchie's game?
That's a good question. He looks involved. He's on the fourth line getting maybe like 9 minutes a game. He's getting his chances. I think he's got 1 point in 10 games. It's not the best. So one of the things that I probably do know about him right now is that he wishes it could be better. And I would guess, he's in the NHL for a reason. It will probably get better, but right now it's just like he's in a rut. Seems he needs to figure out how to get out of that, because I don't think he wants to be on that fourth line. I think he wants to be higher up. And at this point, with like Alex said, Kerfoot playing well, with Bunting doing really well on that first line, there's not really room for him to grow other than the third line. And then you also have, again, Mikheyev coming back. You have Pierre Engvall. You got a lot of players who want to be on this team. And then, again, there's a few players in the Marlies who might think that they're good enough. So he's just got to find his game and figure out the role that he is. Because like we saw last year or in the All or Nothing series, Jimmy VC not really able to find a role with this team. If he can find a role, that's going to be great. It's also the fact that he costs $2.5 million, and that's going to be on the cap. So, I hope for the best for him, and I hope he can find his game, because when he is at his game, he's really good. So we'll have to see and wait, but man, I hope he does well at some point.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you an easier question here. Can Jack Campbell keep this rate that he's been producing so far last season so far this season for the full duration of the year and into the playoffs? Yeah, Alex,
I think
go ahead. Yeah, Nick, that's fine.
I was just going to say, I think so. I mean, he's another guy who's a character guy. The players love him. The fans love him. Like for me personally, I don't remember the last time fans, when a goalie made the save, they're chanting his name like soup. Like, that's just me. I have a bad memory. I might be wrong, but if he's in a great mental state and he's not putting himself down after a goal, and if he's just being himself, similar to Mitch Marner, I think the possibilities for him are endless. And the big possibility is that he'll get re-signed. And I hope that's the case. And I hope his play is justified by that. And I hope he's able to play at this point and just be able to return here next year, because he again, he's another player. And I mean, just looking at his stats right now, like a 929 save percentage in 8 games, that's pretty good. It's not at the level of Frederik Andersen right now, but we shouldn't be comparing those. But I mean, he's going to be good. I'm happy for him, and I'm hoping he continues this.
Alex, we've seen the maximum Jack Campbell has played in one season in his career has only been 31 games in a season. Can we see him pull out 50 games plus and still contribute at this level?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the other thing I was going to touch on there is it's a matter of whether or not he can stay out of his own head, and at the same time, a matter of whether or not he can stay physically healthy. And I think the fact that the Leafs brought in Peter Mrazek should help with that, because Mrazek is a guy who, you know, he's battled his own injury issues before, but at the same time, he's a guy who's used to playing a tandem role. So I think that takes a little bit of the weight off of Campbell's shoulders in terms of the expectations of him and how much he's supposed to be playing. I think ideally you find yourself in a situation where one guy plays 50 games, one guy plays 30 or something along the lines of that, or hell, even 40-40. If both guys can stay healthy, I think that'd be a good situation for both of them, because we know that we've got 2 good goalies there. And after that, I mean, that's really all it comes down to for Campbell, because personally, ever since the Leafs traded for him, I think he's been consistent and just consistently good the entire time. I mean, it helped a lot at the start, considering the fact that Michael Hutchinson was their backup goalie in the season before COVID canceled everything, and he was struggling in that role. And then Campbell all of a sudden came in and took some of the weight off of Freddie's shoulders. And then when Freddie was kind of going through it on the injury front last season, Campbell stepped up and he set a record. So I don't think statistically Campbell has anything left to prove for the Leafs. I think in his time here, he's proven that he can be an elite goalie for them. I think it just comes down to if he can stay healthy or not.
You touched base on Peter Mrazek. So far, what seems wrong with him, Nick?
I wouldn't put any stress on anything. I mean, I don't. Does he have a win? I'm pretty sure he does.
He got the win against Detroit.
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't put any stress on it. He's only played 2 games, a win and a loss. It's not the worst. I mean, it's not the best, but I mean, it's only 2 games. So I really don't think there should be any stress on anything. I don't think 2 games is enough to really judge. And plus, he's been injured. Like, it's gonna be interesting to see how he comes off this injury and how he continues to play, because I know at some points there's a Peter Mrazek who has really good ups and really bad downs. And it's just going to be interesting to see whether or not he can take those ups and be consistent with them. And then when there might be a down, just keep being consistent and keep producing good numbers.
So let's go to the baby Maple Leafs and the Toronto Marlies, Nick. Who is playing really well and actually has a good chance to get called up and play?
There's a few, but the 2 that stand out are obviously Josh Ho-Sang. I mean, you can't discredit what he's doing right now. He's playing great. He's enjoying himself. I believe he has, four or five goals in 6 games, which is 5. Yeah. You know it better than me. That's really bad.
I just wrote an article on him a couple days ago, so it's okay. Elite Prospects is my best friend.
Yeah. I mean, there's too many players with the Leafs and the Marlies. It's so hard to keep track, but he's been doing good. Kirill Semyonov too. He's a quiet guy who produces, and he's a great centerman. He's able to play at both ends of the rink. I think if they ever have a problem with, say, Spezza gets injured, you hope to God that doesn't happen, or somebody else, he's able to come in. And that's one big thing, is that Josh Hosang, for example, he's a good player. And I mean, he's not going to make the top 6 with Nylander and Marner unless one of them gets injured. Again, hope to God that never happens. But if Hosang is really, really good and there's a spot for him, he's earned it. He's been really good. And although it's only been 5 or 6 games, again, you're still able to put a little bit more. If he's able to put a little bit more consistency on it, then it shows that he belongs in the NHL and he belongs with the Leafs. But like in my article the other day, he said he's not really worried about that. He's worried about being happy, and whether or not he gets there, I'm not sure, but I do think right now he's making a strong chance at that possibility.
We'll have a couple of your articles posted on our website, blampsports.com. This is episode 5 of season 7. What's the update on the first rounder last year, Rodion Amirov, Alex? I believe you mentioned in your Hockey Writers top Buds prospect for the beginning of during the offseason. He reminds you of Marian Hossa.
Yeah, see, he's unfortunately still injured to my knowledge. He's had some pretty bad luck between the lack of ice time he was getting in Russia and his injury. I compared him to Hossa because I see a lot of his speed and his combination of his speed and his defensive awareness and his defensive ability. I think he's a guy that the Leafs could rely on, and putting him on the penalty kill, but also giving him some top 6 minutes and giving him an opportunity to produce alongside of either of their star centers. Overall, I think I'd like to see him get some time in with the Marlies, because the thing with the European leagues is that they're concerned about winning their own respective championships. They're not really concerned about developing prospects for NHL teams. So if they've got a prospect, say a Leafs prospect, we'll use Amirov as an example. And maybe it's not as good an example this year because he's been getting the proper ice time this year, but last season he wasn't getting a lot of ice time for his team. And it's not because he wasn't doing well. It's just he was lower on the depth chart, and his team was most concerned with just icing their best possible roster. They don't care that, he has aspirations to play for the Leafs someday. They're just going to ice the best roster possible. So I would like to see him in the AHL where, maybe the Marlies can use him in a role where he could produce and become an effective contributor for them, but also focus on the developmental side of the game.
Before you guys go, I did want to throw this out. Outside of finally winning rounds in the playoffs, how far can the big 3 grow and accomplish?
I'm an optimist. I've always been an optimist, unfortunately, with this team. Said every year that they're going to the Stanley Cup final, and they break my heart. Honestly, though, I've said it every single year, and I'll say it again. If they get out of the first round, the possibilities are endless. It's such a similar comparable to Washington in the sense that when they beat Pittsburgh, they went all the way and did the thing. I think the Leafs are in that same position, but with the first round. And I think if they get out of that first round, it's going to change a lot of people's mindsets around the team, on the team. Like, they're going to believe after that if they can get through that. And I mean, when that team believes and when that team's going, there's not many teams that can stop them. So it'll be a key thing for them to get out of the first round. And if they can do that again, I'll say the possibilities are endless.
Alex, specifically, personally, for those three, what can you see are the possibilities endless in terms of achieving other high statuses?
Well, I think Austin Matthews has potential to go down as the best goal scorer in Leafs history, without question, and one of the best goal scorers to play hockey. I mean, Mitch Marner, you're looking at a guy who can be a perennial 100-point player at his best, and obviously that will rely on whether or not he can get out of his own head and he can just focus on the game. But I think if we're talking sky's the limit for these guys, I think we're talking about a 50 goal, 80 to 90 point career for Matthews per season. I think we're talking about 100-point per season player in Mitch Marner, and I think we're seeing an 80-point player in William Nylander.
Wow.
But those are all very optimistic kind of judgments there. Like that, they would have to play at the top of their game and have nothing go wrong for them every year for that to be the case. But like if we're talking ceiling, I think those are the ceilings for these guys based on what we've seen already.
Hey, that's going on your audio post. That's for sure there. Expect some hits. Again, you can find them on Twitter at Hobson816 for Alex, and Nick at Nick Barden. Thank you two for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me and Alex.
I want to thank all our guests today, Nick and Alex, for breaking down our favorite topic in the Buds. I really hope you all enjoyed that. As well, our important Kyle Beach segment. It was eye-opening, the conversation I had with Joe and Jay. We want to take the time now to give a special thanks and wish Kyle Beach the best. You've been through a lot and continue to make those vital steps. And we'll have to go through a bunch more. You are helping many people. Thank you for being honest, open, and changing the game we all love. If you've enjoyed anything you've heard in this episode or don't, please tweet at me or even our guests. You can follow me on Twitter at PBojaranov or the entire team at Jablam Sports. You can use the hashtag Jablam Sports. That's JABLAM Sports. If you want to also contact us on our website, go to jablamsports.com/contact. Also, you can find all our info for all our guests and our podcasts, for even game notes for each episode, including this one. You'll get guests' info and links to all the things we mentioned on this show. We even have weekly content articles. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify. And of course, click on the 3 dots in your podcasting app and share this episode with 3 friends you know. Please and thank you. Jablam Sports Hockey is your one-stop weekly shop for every expert analysis on every single team. We are a fun community bringing everyone together. Follow us on Facebook. Thank you, everyone. And to every one of our listeners, we're giving you a virtual hug. Stay healthy, listen, be yourself, and stay strong.